Before everything changed, Nathan's days blended into the peaceful rhythm of Ridgegate, the sort of neighborhood where sunlight danced across neat driveways, and the mailman could predict every dog's bark. Nathan wasn't looking for trouble. He cherished his quiet home, took pride in caring for his rescue K9, and waved to neighbors who greeted him with nods and practiced smiles. The weekends hummed with routine, mowing the lawn, chatting at the fence, grilling under a string of lights. But sometimes those smiles hid something more: a tense glance, a conversation that paused when he walked by, an HOA flyer stuck to his mailbox with bold reminders about community standards. When that flyer arrived one winter, it carried a weight he couldn't ignore. What begins as a rule soon stretches into a test. Who truly belongs? And how far will his neighbors go to force their rules on him? The first notice was just the beginning. Nathan barely had time to react before the HOA doubled down, insisting his dog's kennel was unsightly, that his fence was 2 inches too high, and that his mailbox wasn't in compliance with some sudden, never-before-enforced regulation. Every week brought another letter, a warning here, a fine there, a veiled threat of legal action. What started as one flyer quickly morphed into a campaign of pressure. It wasn't just Nathan's K9 or his fence. Soon it was the grass height, porch lights, and even unapproved holiday decor, whatever the HOA board could seize on, to remind him that he wasn't really one of them. Neighbors he thought were friendly began to keep their distance. Conversations strained, and someone on the board even remarked that people who don't embrace the HOA make it worse for the whole street. Nathan tried attending meetings, at first hopeful that speaking up would help, but the gatherings were a farce. The board, fronted by the infamous HOA Karen, shut down dissenting voices and shut out any calls for compromise. He felt like an outsider in his own backyard. Tension followed him into every part of his days, and at night, headlights would slow in front of his driveway. Once he found his trash cans overturned. Another morning, there was a cryptic, hand-scrawled note taped to his truck: "Join or leave." The fines stacked up, along with threats to put a lien on his property. Nathan's mailbox became a symbol of this conflict, a daily reminder that the rules weren't about harmony, but control. A line had been crossed. He could feel the menace. Then, late one evening, while letting his K9 out, he heard strange noises by the side gate. When he looked up, dark figures moved through the shadows. The HOA wasn't content with paperwork anymore. Nathan's choices would define the next act: back down or fight on and face whatever they threw his way. The real battle was only beginning. The battle reached its peak one cold evening under a sky heavy with storm clouds. Nathan, heart pounding and muscles tense, stood on his porch with his loyal K9 by his side and a loaded shotgun resting beside him. The HOA president, fueled by paranoia and unchecked authority, had sent a group of thugs to intimidate him into abandoning his property rights, demanding his participation in the association he fiercely opposed. As the intruders approached, cursing and menacing, Nathan's blood boiled. They tried to force their way onto his property, ignoring his warnings and threatening violence if he didn't comply. The air thickened with tension. Those moments felt endless. His K9 snarled and leapt forward, fangs bared. The shotgun was raised, a clear warning that Nathan was prepared to defend what was rightfully his. Just when it seemed the confrontation might spiral out of control, flashing lights painted the driveway red and blue. The local sheriff's cruiser rolled up, sirens silent, but presence undeniable. The HOA thugs stiffened and withdrew, powerless against law and justice. Nathan stood firm, his resolve unbroken, knowing this was more than self-defense. It was a stand for dignity. But the fight didn't end there. Legal battles ensued, revealing deep-rooted corruption and abuse within the HOA ranks. Neighbors, inspired by Nathan's brave stand, offered testimony against the board. Media coverage shone a light on the shadowy tactics employed to control and intimidate, pushing the HOA toward reform. The night Nathan confronted the intruders was a turning point, not just for him, but for the entire neighborhood. His unwavering stance, fortified by his loyalty to his family and his loyal K9, ignited a broader movement. The community's eyes opened to the abuse of authority lurking behind the HOA's polished veneer. Local media picked up the story. and a wave of public outrage forced the HOA to confront its misdeeds. Legal battles erupted, revealing mismanagement, wrongful fines, and illegal tactics aimed at intimidating residents. Courts sided with Nathan, stripping the HOA of its unchecked powers and demanding transparency. New, fair bylaws were enacted, rules that protected homeowners' rights and held HOA boards accountable. The community, once fractured, began to heal, united by a shared victory against tyranny. Nathan's courage became a rallying cry for neighbors across the nation, empowering others to stand up against similar abuses. His victory proved that even against seemingly insurmountable forces, integrity and perseverance could prevail. The neighborhood transformed into a place where residents weren't just passive compliants, but active guardians of their freedoms. Long-term, this case became a blueprint for HOA reform, inspiring oversight committees and legislation to curb corruption. It sparked a nationwide dialogue about property rights, community fairness, and the importance of standing against tyranny. The ultimate takeaway: no matter how powerful the opposition, integrity, resilience, and standing firm can create lasting change. The fight for justice isn't over. Every voice matters in shaping a fairer, freer community.